AJ Minter is now on the New York Mets, and Tanner Scott signed with the Dodgers. What are the Atlanta Braves waiting for? Yes, welcome on in to Braves Today for Monday, January 20th, your source of news, notes, and updates on your Atlanta Braves. I'm your host, Lindsay Crosby. You can follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Crosby Baseball. You can follow the show on Twitter, Braves_today. We have a Facebook page and Instagram as well. And you can find all of my written work, bravestoday.com. That's the Braves Today Substack, as this is both a podcast and a newsletter. And the off-season from hell continues. We've written about it on the newsletter. We've talked about it on the podcast. The Atlanta Braves keep losing players, but they're not adding to replace them. The latest loss was AJ Minter, who has now officially signed with the New York Mets. And being honest, this one hurts, okay? It's two things can be true at once, right? Do I think giving a non-closer an $11 million a year deal was a great idea? No. I mean, The Athletic said that he's the first non-closer to ever receive an 8-figure AAV and an opt-out in a multi-year deal. But at the same time, he's the team's franchise leader in holds. He's been here for 7 seasons. And not only for him to walk out the door after expressing back in August that he wanted to come back, but to do it and go to a division rival sucks. There's no way around it. This one hurts. And that's in and of itself. That's ignoring the larger context of what else you have lost this offseason, right? Max Fried, Charlie Morton, Travis d'Arnaud, and now AJ Minter. That is a combined 25 seasons of play with the Atlanta Braves that is gone. And you have not made a guaranteed major league signing this offseason. And at this point, I don't really know who you could sign that would move the needle. Now, the caveat here, I did not think the Chris Sale trade would move the needle last year. I thought, it's great. This is your new Charlie Morton, right? You're setting yourself up for when Charlie Morton leaves, except it's a guy that is more injury prone than Morton. And Chris Sale won the freaking Cy Young. So it's not necessarily, there are things you could do that are impactful. And, next segment, we're going to get into some of the options for a signing, for a trade. And then at kind of the end of the show, I think I'm going to talk a little bit about what's going on and what needs to change for Atlanta. Because obviously this strategy, this offseason has not worked. We have heard some of the stories about guys that Atlanta has reportedly been trying to work on. The Jeff Hoffman deal that they agreed to before backing out because of the physical and trying to renegotiate. Buster Olney reported in a podcast over the weekend that it was in October, November or something like that. So early in the offseason. Ostensibly, it was the first team that Hoffman came to a deal with. And when Atlanta backed out, the Orioles got involved. The Orioles failed him on the physical too before he ended up going to the Blue Jays. So there's your prototypical early type of deal that Alex Anthopoulos tries to make. Now, do we really look at this offseason a lot differently if Atlanta in the first couple weeks of the offseason signs Jeff Hoffman to be a starter? And okay, hey, we've added a starter. And so now if we lose Fried and if we lose Morton, it doesn't feel as bad. Do we think of this differently? Maybe. But at the same time, it still sucks. I've talked to AJ Minter, just spring training, clubhouse, whatever. He's a good dude. He likes Atlanta. It's the only organization he's ever known. And it sucks to lose him. And again, two things can be true at once. I wanted to keep AJ Minter. I don't want to pay a non-closer $11 million. And I do think he has a better chance at becoming a closer somewhere else than he probably would in Atlanta. The team would not be biased against him, but I think the fan base would be. We remember some of the time, I think it was early in 23, Iglesias was not ready to start the year. Minter was working as the closer. He had some pretty notable blown saves and some blow-ups that happened early in the year in 23 before moving back into the setup role when Iglesias came off the IL. And again, I'm pretty confident the Braves would have a clean slate or would treat him the way that it should go through. But I can imagine how the fans, and I'm putting myself in there, would react if AJ Minter was the closer after Iglesias and blew some saves early. It'd be a lot of, well, here we go again. It's the AJ Minter experience. Things like that. The issue here that you have with this offseason is the backup plan for AJ Minter is also off the table. Tanner Scott agreed to a 4-year deal with the Los Angeles Dodgers. I believe it was $72 million, $20 million signing bonus, $21 million deferred. The final net present value of the deal is going to come in obviously less than 72. That's how deferrals work. But it is reportedly less on an AAV basis than the Red Sox offered. But it's a longer deal than the Red Sox offered. It is, I think the Cubs were at 466 with no deferrals, and he took the 472 with deferrals instead. It's probably going to end up being less money on, again, the present value of the deferred money with the Dodgers than it is with the Cubs, or it would have been with the Cubs. And Tanner Scott still went to the Dodgers. David O'Brien of The Athletic had reported the Braves were involved in this as well. He reported that weeks ago, right? The Braves were interested in Tanner Scott. They had reviewed medicals, all of that stuff. We don't know how far along that got. We don't know if Atlanta was willing to meet the deal, the offer, the final offer that was on the board for Tanner Scott. Does this offseason look different if the Braves sign Hoffman and Scott? It absolutely does, right? The Jeff Hoffman deal prior to the value of the deferrals, $18 million a year with the Dodgers. The deal for the Cubs, $16.5 million, which is right there. Raisel Iglesias is making $16 million a year in this final year of the deal. Should Atlanta have been willing to meet the money? The easy answer is yes. We don't know how the deal will go, how the deal will age. It is rather frustrating, though, that the Braves lost AJ Minter to a division rival and then weren't able to get the deal done again with the guy who would have stepped in as a more capable replacement in Tanner Scott. And again, the third segment, I kind of want to get into this. If you're waiting for a rant, you're going to get the rant. The rant's in the third segment, okay? The organization's not going to listen that far, okay? It's fine. I can say whatever I want in the third segment. But it is incredibly frustrating that an obvious path to getting better was there. Either bringing back AJ Minter or signing Tanner Scott. Maybe it came down to money. Maybe it just came, with Scott, maybe he just decided to go to LA over Atlanta. He would not be the first player this weekend who chose to go to LA over somebody else. Roki Sasaki could have gone to 29 other teams, and he chose to go to LA because they've got other Japanese players. They have a great player development system. They've got a bunch of Japanese stars already. They're a winning team. They just won a World Series. It makes sense, but it's still frustrating. In just a minute, let's look at the other options Atlanta has to try and get better in the rotation, in the bullpen. We'll do that next, right here on Braves Today. But first, thank you to our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. We talked about this on Friday. We gave you our slip for the weekend of the players that we thought were going to get you, a winning lineup if you were to go in there. We said the 3 guys we are taking. We said we are taking the over on Lamar Jackson on Sunday night. He was 278.5 combined passing and rushing yards. We said higher. He finished with 293. We said Saturday night, Jahmyr Gibbs of the Lions, we're going with higher than 1.5 combined rushing and receiving touchdowns because we had the vulture protection. And guess what? He scored 2. So we won that too. And then we said on Sunday night that Buffalo versus Baltimore matchup, we were going to go with Josh Allen. It wasn't supposed to snow. I thought it'd be an offensive shootout. We were going to go with the higher of 289.5 combined passing and rushing yards. He finished with only 147, yet somehow Buffalo still won and is advancing to the AFC Championship game. So a bad beat there, but still, it does not change the fact that Underdog Fantasy, new customers, which if you want to join, link in our bio, promo code BRAVES, new customers can get up to 1,000 times their money when you place a winning lineup. They are available almost in the entirety of Braves country. Hate it for you, Mississippi. And then when you make your first deposit, you get bonus cash, you get a free play, and again, you can win up to 1,000 times your money. Links in the episode description, promo code BRAVES for Underdog Fantasy. Welcome back to Braves Today. Talking about the Braves losing out on bringing back AJ Minter or replacing him with Tanner Scott. And at the jump here, we have to acknowledge there is no other reliever on the market the caliber of Tanner Scott. He was the best option available. Just now 30 years old, top lefty reliever available. Probably the second and third best lefty relievers available are Aroldis Chapman and AJ Minter. They're also off the board. You have a couple options of guys you can go to make the bullpen better. There's also a guy I want you to be wary of. Commonly considered the best remaining reliever is Carlos Estevez. And I think this is a bad idea. Okay. Carlos Estevez, he is kind of underwhelming from a stuff perspective, but also from an inputs perspective, right? So chase rate, 24.4%, 8th percentile. He's not getting a lot of guys to expand the zone against him. When they do make contact, it's frequently in the air. 32.2% ground ball rate, 5th percentile. Translate that over a little farther. When they do hit the ball, it's not only in the air, it's usually hard. Hard hit rate, 42.3%. That's 18th percentile. And this is something higher the percentile, the better. Barrel rate, 10.1%, 10th percentile. 1 out of every 10 batted balls he allows is a barrel. And you'll remember, a barrel is more than likely a home run, extra bases, whatever, right? So Carlos Estevez, the inputs aren't great. And he overperforms the expected ERA and the expected batting average that he should allow. And he's done it almost every year. And at some point in time, he is going to regress back to the mean. And because he's one of the better younger relievers available, he's going to go for more money than he probably should. He's 32 years old, right? He's going to go for more money than he probably should. If you want to sign a guy with similar inputs as that, you can go a lot cheaper than Carlos Estevez. Go sign Jacob Eunice. I mean, 4-0 with a 2.69 ERA and 67 innings for, I think it was the Reds last year. He did make 6 starts, so he can swing a little bit, but walk rate of 99th percentile, 3.2%. One of the best at not giving out free passes, okay? And while he also allows hard hit balls in the air and things like that, He does, despite the velocity of only 92 on his fastball, he does get pretty decent run values and results with the fastball and the breaking pitches. He throws both a four-seam and a sinker. Y'all know I love a guy who throws multiple fastballs. He also has a slider and a changeup. It's a lower three-quarter slot, so it's a little bit of a funky look. The sweeper does move a lot more than most traditional sweepers do. It's a different look than what a lot of guys are expecting, both from that arm slot, from that velocity, and all of that. So if you're going to sign a dude that doesn't have as good of inputs but gets the results, save the money and go with Jacob Junis versus signing Carlos Estevez. Okay? You can also go the route of veteran reliever who's stumbled on somewhat of hard times recently. There's a couple former Braves you can reunite with. I'm not saying Craig Kimbrell. He's available. I think he's 37. I'm out on Craig Kimbrell. But if you wanted to bring back Kirby Yates for a year, you wanted to bring back Kenley Jansen for a year. Yates is 38, Jansen 37. I think both of those would be okay. Now, obviously, you have to get them to accept a setup role behind Iglesias. If you give a one-year deal to them, which I probably don't want to go too long on a guy who's in his upper 30s, you do run the risk of losing Iglesias and the guy you sign after this season, unless you re-sign Iglesias. And we'll have that show maybe later this week if nothing happens and I need something to talk about, because Iglesias has had some weird inputs in the last couple seasons. So maybe we should talk about that, about re-signing him or not. Paul Sewald is always an option, a guy out there you could go out and get as far as former closer, back-end reliever, knows what he's doing. And then, if you're looking for other options for relievers, Danny Coulombe. I was surprised the Orioles didn't pick up his $4 million option. Some of that may be injury related. He missed a bunch of time with an elbow injury last year. His fastball lost a lot of its unique characteristics because of that. But I absolutely think, it's not every day that a guy has an option declined and then gets more money in free agency. We declined the Kirby Yates option, and he got less money from the Rangers, and he outperformed it. I do think the Phillies signed Jordan Romano for more money than his arbitration would have been had the Blue Jays tendered him, which was weird. But for the most part, $4 million is probably a pretty realistic. It's like, hey, Danny, you can get the same amount you would have gotten last year, but on a better team. He probably would take it. So you can probably get Danny Coulombe pretty cheap. And then there's options in the rotation too. Of the three veterans, the three over 40 veterans, Charlie Morton, Justin Verlander, Max Scherzer. Scherzer's still available. Morton obviously got $15 million from the Orioles. Verlander got $15 million from the Giants. I'm not super aggressive about wanting to sign Max Scherzer. His fastball kind of backed up a little bit from like a stuff perspective last year, but the results, like the ERA, the expected stuff was okay. And if they can keep him healthy, he's probably the one dude of the three where, like, if I had a single game that I had to win and I'm picking of one of those three guys to start the game, it's probably Max Scherzer, the dude that pitched with a broken nose after taking a foul ball or taking a bunt to the face a couple years ago when he was in Washington. Like, there's worse options on the market than Max Scherzer at $15 million for the rotation. Maybe you have to make a trade. It feels like a trade at this point is likely. The Padres are a team that's reportedly trying to free up some money. I've seen Dylan Cease rumored as being available. If they have guys available, Robert Suarez is owned $10 million, and then he can either opt out or keep the deal for 2 years and $16 million after that. Maybe you get Suarez and redo the extension with some more money, and you pay him 10 for 3 years, and you get a guy who could be your closer when Iglesias is done. Maybe you do that instead of trading for Dylan Cease, because Cease is probably going to be expensive, right? But there's options out there. Ryan Helsley is a guy people have mentioned to me as somebody they love to see the Braves go get. I don't know how likely the Cardinals would be to move Ryan Helsley without also attaching Nolan Arenado. No, don't ask. We're not putting Nolan Arenado at short. We're not putting Arenado at third and putting Riley in left. Nolan Arenado is not a fit for the 2025 Atlanta Braves. No, don't ask. Don't do it. Don't do it. I don't want to see it in the comments later. It's not happening. But there are deals available via trade. In just a minute, let's rant for a second. Let's talk about the fact that we're discussing trying to make a trade in late January for your first major ad of the offseason. We'll do that next, right here on Braves Today. Welcome back to Braves Today. Lindsay Crosby talking about AJ Minter going to the Mets, Tanner Scott going to the Dodgers, and the Braves come out of this with bupkis. Let's do the rant for a second, okay? I know I've been one of the people defending Alex Anthopoulos this offseason, okay? I've been one of the people pointing out correctly that the Braves have one of the better rosters in baseball. That the projection systems, the betting lines, everything says that the Atlanta Braves should be one of the three best teams in the National League. The Braves have the best odds, at least they did as of late last week when I got the email from a sports book, the best odds of making the postseason out of the East. The Braves, the projections via Fangraphs for wins. The Braves are like second or third in baseball in projected wins. The Braves have like the second best odds in the National League of making the World Series behind obviously the Dodgers. But again, two things can be true at once. The Braves roster is really good, and by getting these players just back healthy, you have a World Series contending roster. That is true. But at the same time, there's no reason to have gone this long in the offseason and have not gotten a single signing done. Yes, we know that Jeff Hoffman, you were working on that. That would have been your big ad early and it didn't go through. We know you were working on Tanner Scott. Supposedly, you were working on Justin Verlander, and they both went somewhere else. But we were recording First Pitch. That's our daily MLB recap podcast earlier on Sunday night. FirstPitchPodcast.com, by the way, if you want to go watch it. FirstPitchPodcast.com. And I was reminded of a quote from Andrew Friedman, who's GM of the Dodgers, back in like 2016. If you try to be rational on every free agent, you will finish third on every free agent. And this offseason, more so than I think any other offseason, this has been the one where it feels like the Braves have nibbled around on some of these guys, but have tried to be incredibly rational on every single free agent. And it hasn't worked. And yes, the team is good. Yes, this roster, as currently constructed, can contend for the World Series. But it has to be demoralizing in the clubhouse for these players to see so many of their teammates leaving and no one coming in to help. And I know Alex is not immune to that. He talked about in 2021, part of the reason they went out and got Jock Peterson almost right away when Ronald Acuna Jr. went down was for the morale of the clubhouse. He wanted them to believe that the front office still thought they had a chance. And this offseason, it feels like he has forgotten that lesson. And this is not inside information. I'm not reporting. I am speculating here. But you can't tell me that 25 seasons of experience can walk out the door and all go to new teams and nobody in that clubhouse is going to wonder, what the hell? Where's the help? No one's coming in to replace Max Fried and Charlie Morton and Travis d'Arnaud and AJ Minter. Like you can't tell me that they're just fine with it. Yes, you still have Matt Olson. Yes, you still have Austin Riley. Yes, you will eventually have Ronald Acuna Jr. back. Yes, you have Michael Harris. Yes, you have Ozzie Albies and Chris Sale and Spencer Swanbuck and Bernardo Lopez. But at a certain point in time, you have to be willing to add, and you have to be willing to go beyond your comfort zone. And it feels like Atlanta has tried so incredibly hard to make the deals when the value was there. And this is the first offseason where the value has not been there every single time. And at a certain point, if what you're doing is not working, you have to change what you are doing. Now, I don't know if that means be open to a qualifying offer, right? There is a good pitcher you can go out and get without a qualifying offer. You can sign Jack Flaherty. You can do it right now. He's available. He's a free agent. You can call him and sign him. But maybe the thing that needs to change is being comfortable coming off of the qualifying offer, okay? That opens up Nick Pivetta, who's a guy I long thought would be a good fit for Atlanta until he got the qualifying offer. I thought Sonny Gray last offseason would have been a good fit for Atlanta until we got the qualifying offer. Same thing on the position player side. Maybe if you don't worry about the qualifying offer, you can go out and get Anthony Santander. Maybe they think he could play outfield for one more season, and then he's your shoe-in as the DH in 2026. Now, I personally would rather it be a Sean Murphy, Drake Baldwin, maybe rest Acuna's knees timeshare kind of thing. But there is a path to playing time at DH after 2025. The point is, something has to change. Either you need to be willing to offer more money or more years, and reportedly Hoffman was offered 5 years. Reportedly, we don't know that for a fact, but that is the rumor, was 5 years to Hoffman before they came back on that deal. Maybe it's more years. Maybe it's more money. This $22 million threshold that nobody's gone over on a multi-year deal, maybe that needs to start being higher. I don't know if there's a guy who would have signed, were you willing to go over that, who that would have been. Freddie Freeman was reportedly for more than $22 million a year. Dansby Swanson was not. He got way more money from the Cubs. He probably wasn't going to sign here, even if you went from 22 to 24. But at some point in time, refusing to go over 22 is going to hurt you. Refusing to sign a qualifying offer guy is going to hurt you. Refusing to deal with Scott Boras is going to hurt you. Refusing to offer a player opt-out or a player option is going to hurt you. And at some point in time, something has to change because what you're doing is not working. Now, I could have egg on my face. Maybe the Atlanta Braves win the National League East by 10 games and go to the NLCS. I don't know. That's the hard part here. Is the only information we have is that nobody's signed. And a little bit of rumors about a couple guys that they tried to and they couldn't get done. They tried to get Dylan Cease and couldn't do it. We don't have all of the rest of the information. Maybe we should. Maybe Alex Anthopoulos needs to talk to somebody in the media and needs to let it leak. Like, here are the guys Atlanta tried to offer and why it didn't work out. Here's, anonymous source from within the Braves organization, has kind of said that these are the guys they were trying to sign and here's why it didn't work out. Maybe that's what needs to change. Maybe they need to let us know about trying and failing so that we just stop assuming they haven't done anything. But something needs to change. Because just sitting here and saying, oh, when they're healthy, we'll be competitive, might be true, but it's not satisfying. And the way that baseball's money system works, so much more than the rest of the sports, so much more than the NBA and the NFL and everything, baseball, ultimately, at the end of the day, your revenue comes from people paying to watch your games, whether it's their cable package or in person. And the number of people that say they don't want to do that because of how frustrated they are is higher than it's been in a long time. Something has to change. And I don't know what it is. And I understand that I've ranted, and I know some of you are not here for rants. And I'm not really a ranter. But it's at the point where this has gotten frustrating even for me. Let me know what you think. Again, if you're not here for the rants, I apologize. That's how I feel on a Sunday night, okay? This has been Braves Today for Monday, January 20th. Listen on audio, do us a favor, leave us a 5-star review. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. Either way, bravestoday.com. It's all the written stuff. I'll probably write up a version of this on Monday. We're probably not doing a show on Tuesday unless something happens. So maybe I'll write this rant up as an article. And I don't know, you can email it to AA or whatever. Let's see if we can get something to change with the Atlanta Braves. Until next time, this has been Braves Today.